This is KGW News at 5.
We begin here with breaking news tonight at 5 o'clock. A car hit and killed a pedestrian in northwest Portland. We don't have a lot of details about what led up to this and what happened, but the Portland Police Major Crash Team is investigating. This happened on Northwest 23rd Avenue between Everett and Westover Road about 1 this afternoon. We spoke with a woman who lives in the area.
I believe a pedestrian was pinned between the big truck down there and a small car that's parked on the side of 23rd on the opposite side.
Now, the driver involved, we're told, stayed on the scene and is cooperating with investigators. Well, our other top story today, a rain and wind-filled start to the week. Strong wind gusts blew in today, both at the coast and at the valley. We want to send things over to Chief Meteorologist Matt Zaffino for a look at the forecast. Matt?
Yeah, it was a wild one, but things are calming down right now, even at the coast where we're getting some good breaks in the clouds. Northwest winds, but only 15 miles an hour compared to where we were earlier in the day. That's awesome because Lincoln City gusted to 74 miles an hour. Several locations around Astoria hit 68 miles an hour. Here in town on the Fremont Bridge, crosswind, south wind at 42 miles an hour up on the bridge. Salem, a gust of 35. Same thing in Newburgh and McMinnville and Aurora. But up on Mount Hood, 7,000 feet, that's the top of the Magic Mile chairlift, a gust of 125 miles an hour about 3 o'clock this afternoon, and their sustained winds have been over 50 miles an hour for several hours in a row. So it's just been ripping up there on the mountain. But the good news is the winds are calming down, even though we still have a wind advisory east of the Cascades. No warnings or advisories west of the Cascades in Oregon, and that will expire in about an hour and a half or 2 hours right now at 7 o'clock tonight. So things are beginning to settle down for us. We will have showers tomorrow, but nothing like the drenching rains of last week, Thursday, Friday, or today when it dumped, or the winds of today either. In fact, we get an east wind on Wednesday, not a rager, just enough to keep the fog away. We'll have a dry day on Wednesday. It's going to be cooler all week too. We're done with those 60-degree temperatures. We'll get rain on Thursday, but again, nothing like what we've seen late last week or even today. So not as nasty this week. Back to you.
All right, Matt, thank you. Well, in Washington, flooding is a major issue tonight, particularly in the northern part of the state. This video you're seeing is from Sumas. That's a town near the Canadian border. Floods have washed out the roads and much of the city is cut off right now. Cars have been swept away and people are being told to stay in their homes while they wait for rescue crews to come in and get them out. Some locals are taking matters into their own hands, though, and are out in boats looking to save their neighbors.
We're a pretty tight community, so we have a lot of family everywhere, and a lot of family means a lot of people need help, and that's what community does. We're here to help each other, and so we're going to give it a go and see if we can do something for them.
Now, the city says all roads leading out of town are currently closed. Just look at this video, how much water is in the town there. Power outages are also a big problem in the region. Puget Sound Energy says almost 100,000 people are without electricity, including across all of Vashon Island near Seattle. For the latest on the weather conditions around the region, you can look for updates on air on KGW.com and on our KGW mobile app. You can also use the app to send us your weather photos. Well, school districts are still trying to fill big staffing and substitute teacher shortages. That's why an Oregon commission recently changed the rules to help school districts attract more candidates. Christine Pedewanich takes a look at how it's going.
It's been a little over a month since a rule change that dictates who can become a substitute teacher. The Oregon Teacher Standards and Practices Commission, or TSPC, made the change and is now issuing emergency substitute teaching licenses.
Yeah, for the emergency substitute license, the minimum qualifications are a high school diploma. My name is Brian Turner. I am the Director of Recruitment and Staffing for Salem-Keizer Public Schools.
Turner says the state commission only requires those applying for the special license to be 18, but the district has an additional requirement, a high school diploma. Even so, they're adding substitutes to their pool every day.
I think that we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel, thanks to TSPC and the emergency license. That's been a big hit.
Turner says more than 110 people have applied to become substitute teachers in the last month, with 15 people already in the classroom with an emergency substitute teaching license.
The opportunities are greater than they've ever been in terms of TSPC's rule changing and allowing folks to get into the classroom if they go through a process.
The need is great. According to the TSPC, in December of 2019, before COVID, Oregon had 8,290 licensed substitute teachers. As of September of this year, that number is down to 4,738. Add positions other than substitute teachers, and the need is even greater. Some say the shortage is due in large part to the pandemic.
There's hundreds of jobs that are available.
But when it comes to substitute teaching in particular, Turner says the process to become one has become easier.
And you have to apply to Salem-Keizer Public Schools for the job posting, the emergency substitute job posting, as well as applying to TSPC for the license.
The decision to hire substitute teachers with the emergency substitute teaching license varies by district. Some are choosing to do it while others aren't. Christine Pedewanich, KGW News.
The Portland Public School District is working to get kids vaccinated against COVID now that 5 to 11-year-olds are eligible. It's hosting a series of vaccine clinics for students and families. One took place this afternoon at Scott Elementary School in Northeast Portland. The district will host a total of 8 clinics at various Portland elementary schools. If you'd like more information, you can visit pps.net. This evening, we're hearing from the president of the Portland Police Association. He says 2 calls over the weekend highlight the dangers officers face every day. Late last night, police say a drunk driver slammed into one of its police cruisers that then crashed into a utility pole. As officers investigated the crash, police say a second drunk driver intentionally drove into a crowd of officers and bystanders. The car hit one officer. Other officers used a taser to get the driver under control. All of this came a little more than 24 hours after someone shot at police while running away from a traffic stop near Northeast 92nd and Halsey.
It continues to be very difficult for people in our profession, and our officers, they leave their families every day and they go out into the community to try to make it safer. So it definitely, for me now, is hard to see these things happening, and definitely worried about my officers.
Now, we're told officers escaped any serious injuries over the weekend. Police are still looking for the people who shot at the officers. If you know anything, you're urged to contact the Portland Police Bureau. You may be eligible for a $2,500 reward from Crime Stoppers. Governor Kate Brown was in Washington, D.C. today as President Biden signed his $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill into law. Here's a breakdown of some of the money that's coming to Oregon. The biggest chunk is $3.4 billion to upgrade roads and highways. Then there's $268 million for bridges, $747 million for public transportation, $52 million to build electric vehicle charging stations, $100 million will be dedicated to high-speed internet for people around the state, and $32 million to protect against wildfires. Well, following a summer of record wildfires, heat, and climate disasters, Oregon Congressman Earl Blumenauer is calling for more effort to prevent disasters by addressing climate change. Just back from the UN Climate Change Conference, Blumenauer outlined his plans to strengthen federal response to climate disasters like fires and heat waves. It's all in his new report that analyzes the impacts of various climate disasters around the country and examines the federal government's failure to properly prepare and respond.
FEMA is not authorized to deal with extreme heat. This is an area where we need to adjust what we do and how we go about it.
In the coming weeks, Blumenauer will begin introducing legislation to support his plan.